And today we're going to be talking about a kind of a fun topic. I think it's a mental hack, and I love talking about this habit stacking and how to create healthy habits without going crazy. Hey, boss family, it's Kay and Tanner here for another Wednesday watch. And we are just cruising right along with some business tips to help you find success in your business, as well as just give you some peace of mind to keep going. And today we're going to be talking about a kind of a fun topic. I think it's a mental hack, and I love talking about this habit stacking and how to create healthy habits without going crazy. I have Tanner here with me today. Tanner, what are your initial thoughts on the topic of healthy habits?
Oh, on healthy habits, I love it. It's um, building in the routine for the things that matter, and define what matters to you as you go through business life, whatever. But finding a way to do things consistently, and that's what I think where habits come in is having consistency, and
Mhm.
big fan of that.
Definitely. And same here. I always find, that's one thing I struggle with is like sticking to those like habits and, then the habits like become those goals. And then you all of a sudden, like a year later, you've achieved like the big hairy goal for the year. So that's what I'm always working on because I'm very visionary. And like many of us entrepreneurs out there, creating healthy habits can be challenging, but we're here to say, hey, it's not that bad. There's some tips and tricks that you can have along the way to help you find success. And so, yeah, I'd like to just kind of dive in on the topic of like habits and how many habits do we change at once? Like, what is a healthy amount of habits? And how can we find some clarity with the topic of habits?
Mm. I think it's probably important if the audience hasn't done so first is identifying what is the ideal outcome, or like what are we solving for. I think is the way we look at it. If it's personal, are we solving for health? Are we solving for business output? Is it for more money? Is it for more time with our family? Because the habits that we choose to reinforce are ultimately going to need to align with kind of what we're looking to ultimately solve for. And then from there, it can be number of habits, things like that. I think will be dependent upon the individual and kind of what their tolerance is for either picking up or making changes in their own life. That's kind of my initial thoughts on it. And as you alluded to earlier, there's ways to habit stack or like make things a little bit easier, which is a way to basically pair things that you're already going to do with new habits and new things to solve for that outcome that you're looking for.
Definitely, definitely. The habit stacking is something I learned about not too long ago, actually. I mean, maybe a couple of years now. I don't even remember, but it was something I wasn't even aware of. And when I realized that I could like pair something with something I'm already doing, it really just took away the, having to think extra about creating a healthy habit or adding something to my routine. And where this has been hugely beneficial to me lately is through creating, like getting back to my morning routine, because I notice when I have that healthy habit in place, when I have that morning routine in place, it sets me up for success with the rest of my day. And so, kind of finding a way to get back to that. And I've actually habit stacked my morning routine with making coffee because I make coffee every morning. And so I get out of bed, I try to stay off my screen. And that's like my number one is if I can get out of bed, get the coffee going, and then kind of go into that next habit that I'm trying to create, which is that morning routine. And so that has been really beneficial for me rather than just like thinking, oh, I have to set a reminder, I have to do this. Oh, what if I don't wake up? It's like, no, no, it's in my schedule, it's there. And I've added the time for it that I need. And I think that's another big key component is allowing for the time to create the habits because they do take time.
Mm-hmm. Is it the I can't even remember the number. It's something crazy like a several weeks of consistency or something like that is like actually what it takes to really ingrain and build a habit. Um, but it might be important for us to just take a step back for those that haven't heard the word habit stacking before and kind of defining
Mhm.
it. So you have to tell me if I'm like on the same path as kind of the definition you've used, but it's essentially pairing a new habit with something that you're already doing. Is that kind of the best way to express it?
Definitely. Hmm.
So you've got a couple that you're doing. What are a few other examples of like where you've got some habit stacking in place that you've done to start kind of getting into new rhythms, new routines, and building in consistency for any area that you've got in your life?
Oh, yes. Well, definitely. I like to start with my start and end to my day, because I think setting myself up for success with my night routine and my morning routine, that really helps me fuel forward through the day. Because I notice myself starting to kind of lose momentum or kind of get lost in a lot of activities and not really accomplishing anything. And by setting myself up with my morning routine, that includes, writing my to-do list down and, journaling and just doing the things to get my headspace ready. And so that has been a huge benefit to me personally with habit stacking. There's other things I want to do down the road, but I'm starting with this to kind of build that foundation for success for my day right off the bat.
Hmm, I like that. Um, there's a when I kind of think about, I guess, my routine and kind of where have I applied this, I think through what are some of the like super ingrained habits that I currently have, and how do I pair those with something else? So as simple as brushing my teeth. You know, what am I setting next to my toothbrush so that it reminds me to do that thing because I'm going to be there at least twice a day, every day? Like that's a very tactical, easy way to say, here's something that's always been ingrained in my life. And then, okay, I got to take my multivitamin. It's right next to that. Or actually, for that one, for me, my multivitamin and like fish oil and all that kind of stuff is next to my coffee because I need to make sure I'm eating food with it. So I put it in a space where I'm like, well, I'm not going to miss grabbing a cup of coffee. Like that's a habit that I don't want to break. Or you look at probably another area, and I think a client of ours asked the question of like, yeah, how do you continue to learn and grow and read more books? Like you're always like reading all these different business books and all that kind of stuff. How are you growing as an individual? How do you have time for that? Like, well, I don't, but I do. I have a habit that has been ingrained for the last like 2 decades of like exercising, and I always exercise in the morning, whether that's weight training, running, walking, whatever it is. Well, that's an easy thing to throw an audiobook on while I'm doing that type of activity. Or maybe it's commuting to the office every single day. Like I have that habit; it's not going to change, but it's time that I can then leverage to do this other stuff that I can do at the same time. So they're like aligned in a way. Um, I know there's a few others and that like are escaping me at my point at this point, but those are kind of some of the ones that like come to mind of I had to add these additional habits in. What was I already doing and what aligns with that, and how do I just put them together so that when I do X, I'm always reminded to do Y.
Definitely. Yeah, it sounds like we have some similar ways of doing it too. And, thinking about healthy habits and habit stacking, and also not being overwhelmed, and focus on those incremental growth points, those little wins. You can start small. Like, it is something as simple as like, hey, where do you put your vitamins? Or like for me, it's my journal is sitting out. So I see it. Like I close my computer at the end of the night, put my journal on it. So I'm like, it reminds me before you get going into your emails, write in your journal, get all that gunk out of your brain before you sit down and write those emails. And then ultimately, that sets me up for better communication, better mindset. And so, yeah, it's the little things that really matter.
Yeah, and this does have a massive business application as well. So if you want to take like all the personal stuff aside, there was another individual I had a conversation with, and one thing she needed to do was make sales calls. So she's like, I have to make at least call it 3 sales calls every single day. So
Mhm.
one of the things that she did is like at whatever time it was like 2 p.m. or something like that. At 2 p.m. every single day, I'm getting in the car to go to wherever, and it was like, all right, I have a habit that I get in the car at 2 o'clock and I go do X. So when I get in the car, I now have a new habit that says every time I get in the car at 2 o'clock, I have to make 3 sales calls.
Mhm.
Have to pick up the phone and I have to make the calls. Maybe they go well, maybe they don't go well, but I'm getting in the habit that every single day I need to do that. And that led to additional success and wanting to do more calls after that, and a whole bunch of different things that were side benefits of building that ingrained habit of I have a habit that goes from here to here, and now adding in the every time I do that, I'm going to make 3 sales calls.
Oh, I love that. That's like genius because it just she's already doing that routine and then it just sets her up for success, especially with something that can be kind of challenging is picking up the phone and making those sales calls. So that is really incredible. And another thing I like to talk about too is sometimes when I'm creating a habit that maybe is challenging, I like to set up a reward for
Mm,
like doing that. And like mine, vary and we all have those. But it's, sometimes you can set up a simple reward. Maybe it is grabbing a coffee from your favorite coffee shop, or like when you're working on those hard habits that you need to do, those bigger things that you need to tackle, or set something up that it reminds you of your why you're doing it and the end goal, as well as like giving yourself little wins along the way, and it makes the process a lot more palatable sometimes, especially with those challenging habits.
I think it's probably important to kind of do a little bit of introspection, and really think about, am I more of a carrot or a stick person? Like, do I need that external reward and something to chase, in that if I do X, then I get Y? Or are we more motivated by pain, I guess? I'm trying to think of this like the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
But more like accountability. Like, am
Hmm.
I more motivated to have like that external thing I'm going after, or am I more motivated, knowing that I've got somebody behind me that's holding me accountable, that's going to say, hey, did you get X, Y, and Z done? Both can be super effective, and some are more effective by the former one, some by the latter. But I think it's important to kind of think through what motivates you, or like what style motivates you, and then being able to lean into that in a really healthy way of saying, all right, well, I
Hmm.
just need an accountability partner that once a day is going to send me a text message that said, hey, did you do X, Y, and Z? And
Hmm.
I know that I have to respond and say yes or no. For some people, they may get that text message and go, F off, I don't care. For other people, that's a big deal. So it really depends
Hmm.
on which side do you tend to be on for these types of habits, and lean into it to
Yeah.
really help you continue to grow and build that consistency.
That is a really good point because, yes, this actually makes me think about like how I actually respond when I'm stacking habits or working on my habits. And accountability has always been a big one for me too. Like having that partner to get through things with or call me out when I need to hear it. Yeah. So that is a really good point to think about. Like, yeah, getting introspective with yourself. How do you accomplish goals? How do you get through habits and build habits and really look at what works for you? Because there might be another way that fits you better than, something that you've been doing, or, maybe just like really look at where you're finding success. I always say, look at the fruit in your life, where you're finding success in both personal and in business. And then look at how you got there and kind of trace your steps back. How did you create that system? And so those are some really good tips on healthy habit stacking.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, yes, there's a lot of great stuff that we can get into on that, and um, looking forward to see all of this in application as we all continue to grow.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thanks for checking this episode out, guys. I hope you got a lot out of it. Be sure to check out our older episodes as well. There's so many great nuggets. And yeah, we'll see you again for another Wednesday watch.